All right, let's dive right in, shall we? Today, we're wading into the world of AI and the future of hiring, something I'm sure we've all been bumping up against lately.
It's everywhere you look these days.
It really is, and we've got a great jumping off point for our deep dive today. That thought-provoking LinkedIn article you sent over, The Invisible Hand, how AI will govern your hiring process.
Oh, absolutely. Really fascinating read. Gets into some important nuances about this whole trend.
For sure. Like right away, it paints this picture of AI as a recruiter's dream. You know, no more sifting through stacks of resumes. It's like, boom, algorithms do the heavy lifting, and suddenly you've got a short list. Superhuman efficiency, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, you can see the appeal, especially for these big companies drowning in applications.
Oh, totally. Can you imagine, like, having to go through thousands of resumes, AI steps in, analyzes everything in a flash, and you're, sipping lemonade by the time the shortlist is ready?
Exactly. Efficiency on a whole other level.
Okay, and you knew this was coming, there's got to be a trade-off, right? This can't all be sunshine and roses.
Definitely not. The article digs into the potential downsides, and one of the biggies is, well, the human side of things, the candidate experience.
Right, because imagine this. You finally snag an interview, and instead of a warm body across the table, you're staring at a screen, being judged by an algorithm.
Talk about impersonal.
The worst. Like, way worse than those automated phone menus that make you press 5 for this and 6 for that.
Oh, a million times worse. And you know what the article really keyed in on? Younger candidates especially are finding these automated video interviews, AVIs, super stressful.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I'd be a wreck. Like, what if the AI misinterprets something I do, scratch my nose, and suddenly I'm not a good cultural fit?
There you go. And that's the thing. It kind of makes you wonder, are we going to end up in this world where everyone's just trying to game the system, stifling creativity and authenticity just to appease an algorithm?
So instead of putting your best foot forward, you're putting forward whatever foot the AI wants to see.
Exactly. And the irony is the article brings up HireVue, one of these AVI platforms, and they're already facing scrutiny for potential bias in their assessments.
Oh, wow. So much for algorithms being objective.
Yeah, you start to see how we might be trading one set of problems for another.
Exactly. So how do we make sure this tech actually leads to better hiring, not just like different hiring?
It's like you can have the fanciest oven in the world, but if you're baking a cake with rotten eggs, it's not going to end well.
So we're talking like gender bias, racial bias, even bias against specific schools or companies, all baked right into these algorithms.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the article even mentions a case from a few years back, Unilever, I think it was. They were using AI-powered video interviews, figuring it'd be totally objective. But get this, the system ended up flagging candidates based on really subtle things like microexpressions, or even how they spoke, which could totally reflect cultural backgrounds. They basically ended up reinforcing the very biases they were trying to get rid of.
Wow, talk about a reality check. Makes you wonder how many companies are out there totally unaware that their fancy AI is actually amplifying bias.
And that's the thing, right? There's often this lack of transparency around these AI systems. It's like a black box, data goes in, decisions pop out, but no one really knows what's going on inside.
Dude, even if you suspect there's bias, you can't really point to it because the algorithm's inner workings are a secret.
It's a real problem, which is why the article brought up this whole idea of corporate social responsibility, CSR. Like, companies got to be held accountable, make sure these AI hiring tools are actually ethical and transparent.
Right, because otherwise it's not just bad ethically, but it's terrible PR, right? Imagine the headlines. Company X's AI proven to discriminate.
Oh yeah, PR nightmare. And you know what I appreciated? The article highlighted a company that's doing this, well, Salesforce. They actually have something called a bias detection tool. Basically, it audits their algorithms, constantly checking for any red flags.
Yeah. Now, that's the kind of proactive approach we need to see across the board. I mean, it all comes down to transparency, doesn't it? If companies are upfront about how they're using AI in hiring, it gives everyone a chance to say, hold on, is this really fair?
Totally. Transparency opens the door for scrutiny, for feedback, for actually making these systems better. It protects companies and empowers candidates at the same time. Win-win.
Okay, so we've established that AI isn't going anywhere. And frankly, it has the potential to be a really powerful tool for good in hiring. But we've got to be really careful, really deliberate about how we use it, right? Make sure we're not just automating the same old biases.
100%. And you know what this all makes me think about? What does this mean for actual human recruiters? Like, are we headed towards a world where recruiters are, like, obsolete?
Yeah, I have to admit that thought crossed my mind too. Like, do I need to start polishing up my resume and sending it to an algorithm instead of a person?
Well, the article paints a bit of a more, shall we say, nuanced picture. It's not necessarily robots taking over, but maybe more like,
Robots lending a hand.
there you go.
Yeah.
Like, think of it as a partnership. The AI can handle a lot of those initial tasks, those things that make recruiters want to tear their hair out, like sifting through mountains of applications, checking for basic qualifications.
Okay, so the AI does the initial screening, but then what? Where does the human element come back in?
That's where it gets really interesting and where the real value of human recruiters really shines. See, once the AI has narrowed down the pool a bit, human recruiters can step in and focus on the things AI just can't replicate. Things like emotional intelligence, soft skills, whether someone's a good cultural fit. Those uniquely human qualities that make a team really click.
Right, because an AI can't tell if someone's got a good sense of humor from their cover letter or if they'd thrive in a fast-paced environment based on their LinkedIn profile.
Exactly. And the article used a word that I thought was really powerful here, de-skilling. Like, if we let AI take over every aspect of hiring, human recruiters might actually lose those really crucial, uniquely human skills. It's like relying on GPS so much that you forget how to read a map.
Okay, so I'm feeling a bit better about the future of hiring now, but it does bring up another question. If AI is handling that initial interaction with candidates, how do we make sure the experience doesn't feel cold and impersonal? Because, let's be honest, nobody wants to feel like they're talking to a wall when they're putting themselves out there in the job market.
Totally. The last thing we want is for job hunting to become this dehumanizing experience where candidates feel like just another data point.
It's true. I mean, applying for jobs is already nerve-wracking enough. Throw in the whole AI aspect, and it's easy to feel like you're just shouting into a void.
Right. And that's where things can go wrong. But the article did point to a company that's trying to get this right, and that's Microsoft. They seem to be putting a lot of effort into making the candidate experience more human, even with AI in the mix. For example, they make sure candidates get regular updates throughout the process.
Oh, thank goodness. Because that whole radio silence thing is brutal. Like, did my application even make it through the system? Am I lost in digital purgatory?
Exactly. And beyond just keeping people in the loop, Microsoft also makes a point of explaining how their AI actually works. So candidates aren't just left wondering, how do they even choose me for this interview?
Because transparency builds trust, right? It's like that saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I feel like that totally applies to the job search process, too. If a company takes the time to communicate clearly, treat you like a human being, it makes all the difference.
For sure. And you know what else really stood out to me about Microsoft's approach? They actually provide feedback to candidates, even the ones who aren't selected.
Oh, wow. I've never actually heard of a company doing that. That's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like instead of just getting that generic rejection email, imagine getting personalized insights from the AI. Like, hey, this is what you did well in the interview. Here are some things you could work on.
Right, because feedback is so valuable even if it's coming from an algorithm. It's all about learning and growing, right? So it seems like what we've learned today is that the future of hiring isn't really about humans versus machines. It's more about finding that balance, that sweet spot where technology and human interaction can work together.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
AI has this incredible potential to make hiring more efficient, maybe even more objective. But we can't lose sight of that human element, We've got to remember that behind every resume, every application, there's a real person with real hopes and dreams. And it's on all of us, companies, recruiters, candidates, to make sure those stories are heard, even in this increasingly digital world.
Perfectly said. That's the future of hiring I think we can all get behind.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into AI and the future of hiring. Big thanks to you, our listener, for sending in this article. It sparked such a great conversation.
It really did. Always a pleasure to dive deep with you.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time.